All right, I'm here with Mason Bendewald. He is the founder of MegaMace Fitness. He's got over 20 years of building top fitness companies and coaching trainers to become on-fitness camera stars such as P90X, The Daily Burn, and much, much more. Mason, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, it's awesome to be here. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into some things with you because, you have been around some of the best in the fitness industry. And, a lot of my listeners are into health and alternative wellness, but I have a lot of coaches that listen to the show too, and including myself. We're trying to be better. I mean, we live in this world. I mean, let's face it, the pandemic, did a lot of crazy things. And so we live in this more virtual world. And something we'll probably even get into, I didn't even realize I have friends that go to gyms, but now you go to gyms and there's a lot of gyms you just kind of like check into and there's nobody even there. So it seems like even people are moving away from some of these gyms. And so we definitely are going to dive into those things and kind of what can we prepare ourselves for the future. But I'm curious, like, how did you get started in this career? And like, did you always know you wanted to do something in the fitness industry or just working with, I don't want to say Hollywood stars, but just working on film? Like, was that something you were always passionate about?
Certainly not. Fitness was not something that I don't think maybe today, but back when, well, I'll go all the way back. I went to the High School of Performing Arts in New York City, and I was an actor and a dancer. I loved theater and realized it's very hard to make a living there. But I also had all these other skills that most actors don't, which was seeing the big picture, organizing. I did a lot of stage managing, started to produce, and went to film school ultimately. And that was in Philadelphia, and realized that, the bigger market was in Los Angeles. And right around the time I was getting ready to move, I got this opportunity from a little startup company called Beachbody to direct an infomercial. And it was for a fitness video. And back then, when it was just strictly TV, all of these infomercials, everything's pretty much too good to be true. But I knew Carl, who was the CEO, and liked him and trusted him. And long story short, I ended up taking this job to make an infomercial. He loved my idea. But I really had just such a high standard of ethics that I was like, but I'm going to do the product myself to make sure it works because I really want to believe and trust in it. And lo and behold, Joel, if you have a good diet and you are active consistently following a workout, you're going to get in good shape.
Holy cow.
So it worked. And then the next opportunity was P90X. But I still was not, like, my dream was to, be a great filmmaker and make narrative films, but I didn't really have, I was just struggling to get my company off the ground. I didn't really that's a much, much bigger dream. And so I was just, how do I make a living? How do I create some sort of revenue within a production? And so any job I got, I took. But I do say, partly as a joke, but it's true, the idea of doing fitness videos as production back then, I was like, I don't care about fitness. You're kind of naturally in good shape when you're still in your 20s and 30s. You don't need to think about it. And the pastel, perfect Jane Fonda of the time workouts to me were just nothing against Jane Fonda. She's amazing. But I really didn't like the workout videos. And so when P90X came along, I was like, God, I really don't want to do fitness, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do everything differently. And just because it was a new company and Carl had said, the CEO, hey, this is going to be completely different type of workout. Like nobody's seen it before. And I just took that as a great, okay, good. Then it's easy for me to say, I'm going to do everything differently. And as they say, the rest is history.
That's amazing. Now, don't you think, now looking back though, that it actually might have been such a great trait of yours that you actually didn't like fitness, could care less about it, and maybe even selfishly, you wanted to do something different. You're like, if I were to create a fitness video or whatever, I would do this to attract someone like me. Because I always notice it's like the people that are not ensconced maybe in the actual industry or trained to be like think the way a fitness guy would think, they actually do many disruptive things and a lot of times can make it better. Did that kind of fold for you as well?
You nailed it. I'll go back a second. When I was in Philadelphia, I produced a film as I was just getting started, and it was like shot on film. It was very hard to make a film back then. It took a lot of work, took money, and we got rejected from the local big film festival, which was the only way to get seen at the time. And that just drove me insane. I was like, this is a great film. We're local filmmakers, and we're rejected. So I quickly said, I'm not going to take this laying down. And I created my own film festival, which I sat around the table with, and I'd never done a film festival, but it's just, at least to me, it was like just organizing and marketing enough to get people interested. So I sat around with my director of photography, who's my business partner, and the director of the film, and told them my idea. And then I threw out some names. And one of my names was, I said, maybe we call it the Reject Film Fest. And both guys looked up, they're like, whoa, absolutely not. That, and I go, well, why not? And they go, because it's, I don't know, it sounds and I go, that's what we're calling it. And it took off. I was on we were on the cover of the Philadelphia Inquirer. I was interviewed on NPR. It exploded because it was so different and gutsy. And so that and many other lessons have Apple had a great campaign. This is, I think, back in the 80s or early 90s, but it was Think Different. And I love that. And that's what I always encourage my trainers to do, or anybody else, and including myself. I'm constantly learning, and I go, I've got to do it differently. That's what captures people's imagination and attention. And P90X, the idea behind what I did production-wise was to go, in the Jane Fondas of the era, everything was perfect. And I said, that doesn't resonate with me. I want to see, if this is supposed to be hard, we're not taking breaks. We're going straight through. And if somebody fails on camera, that's part of the story. If there's a bit of a blooper, that's going to be part of the fun. I created storylines and characters because I hired real people that had been through the program versus fitness models, which was pretty much the standard. People who were like naturally fit or only in their 20s or whatever it was. And I was like, no, this is going to be real and this is going to be gritty and we're going to break the third wall. And I'm creating a set that feels more like you would want it to feel for that product. And it captured people's imagination, not just good workouts. Because I like to say a push-up is a push-up. Joel, I'm not going to teach you how to do a push-up. I don't care which position your hands are, your elbows, it's like buckling a seatbelt. When you get on a plane, somebody says, hey, can we get your attention, please? Make sure nobody pays attention because they know. And it's the same thing with the push-up. So if you're a trainer or you're making videos, you have to capture people's imagination by doing it differently. So it's not the push-up that is the thing. It is the entertainment value to get somebody to keep showing up, because then it almost becomes, the results become a byproduct of me enjoying being with you. And that's what P90X did. That's how the Reject Film Festival was just another film festival, but I captured, the name captured people's attention. And then there was little things like you had to have a rejection letter from another festival to even enter our festival. And we brought in John Waters. So it was a lot of fun. It was like people celebrated this idea of being misunderstood, rejected. And all of us can tap into that because everybody's been rejected or misunderstood. So that was fun. P90X was fun. I encourage people to think differently and not do what every other trainer does, and not do. I've had tons of clients who've come to me and said, we want to do the next P90X. And I go, no, you can't do the next P90X. That's done. That's its thing. It's branded. It's great. Do the next thing. Come up with something different. People say, we want to be Peloton. That's ridiculous. Peloton did a whole bunch of things that nobody else can do at the same time and so on. So you have to always reinvent, take what you know, what nobody else has, and put that forward. And that's where you find success, in my experience.
I love that. That's amazing. It's funny too, because just like you said, things not being perfect. And even right now we're seeing, just in like the TikTok and Instagram world, a lot of people just doing, iPhone videos. It's kind of clunky. It's kind of messy. People are enjoying those more than these super produced videos. And even when, you're running ads and stuff, they say, just do your iPhone, because it just looks look more like a real person, which is funny. The other thing too, as I was thinking, you're saying do something different, and I do follow some of the trends in the fitness industry. And again, on like Instagram or TikTok, I'm seeing these guys doing the most ridiculous, like an ab workout. I'm like, you don't do that in real life, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they're doing things like, and they're doing it to get looks, right? Because I'm stopping the scroll and I'm looking. But I mean, the ab workouts are so ridiculous. It's like, I don't know, doing a decline, like on a decline bench, holding an Olympic bar while you're doing a crunch, or they're doing like a hanging leg raise and they're throwing a medicine ball with their feet. I'm like, it's a cool acrobatic stunt and it's like neat and it stopped the scroll, but I'm like, you're not really doing that to develop your abs. Let's be realistic. But I don't know, some of it.
But to that point, it's entertainment. Like, it's capturing your imagination. Totally. And right, there's, to work out your core, to work out your abs, there's a limited, or there's an unlimited amount of different things you can do, but it's all, ultimately, you're doing the same thing. You're trying to strengthen your core. And if you can, I think the best way to capture people's imagination, because I think, to your point, is maybe those are awkward and you're not going to be doing that all the time. But it did stop you from scrolling.
It's entertaining.
It looked cool.
For me, it's entertaining. Yeah. I'll never do that, and I know those guys aren't doing it either. But they're showing off some. It's an entertainment. Their physique and their their athleticism. Really, it's like, not the average person really can't do that. Even high end people, high level athletes, are not going to be able to do some of those things. So it's cool.
So that's more sensational. If you're a trainer trying to capture somebody's attention, you and I didn't discuss this beforehand, but one of the big things I talk about is if you're doing a full workout, anywhere from 10 to 40 or 50 minutes, learning how to weave in stories and talk about things other than fitness is really where most trainers lack understanding of that completely. And the easiest way in our short time together here to illustrate that is, think about any cooking show you've ever seen. The Food Network, at its core, is entertainment. They tell stories. Their personalities interacting. You become fond of them. And that is why you tune in. People don't tune into the Food Network and go, okay, I need to learn how to make the best Eggs Benedict ever. They're just kind of randomly turning it on and watching shows. If you want to figure out how to make the best Egg Benedict, you usually go to the internet and type it in. But when you watch the Food Network, you're being entertained. You might get ideas. You might go cook some of those things. But it's not just, okay, take 2 eggs, crack them in a skillet, do this, do that. Okay, enjoy. It's, oh man, when I grew up in New York City, and we used to, on Sunday mornings, go down to the Pink Teacup Cafe, and they made the best hollandaise sauce. And one day I went in and I asked the chef, how did he make it? And lo and behold, he added this one little secret ingredient. He was originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. And so there's a story behind it. And like, all of a sudden, your imagination's turned on. Same thing with fitness. And very few trainers understand it and know how to do it. But when I work with them, it's one of the big things we work on, besides capturing an audience by looking into the lens and understanding how to talk to one person. We can talk about some of those, but the big one is learning how to weave in stories and not just say, engage your core, feel the burn. This has got that's the worst thing you can say, in my opinion, today, because everybody says it and you just tune it out.
Totally makes sense. I love that. And, we actually didn't talk about why you're here and what your mission is. And I want to just backtrack really quick, and then let's get into some of those tactical things that you're talking about. But, you've done this amazing work with P90X. You've done this amazing work with Daily Burn and many, many other folks like Bob Harper from The Biggest Loser. I'm just curious, now you're on this path to help other trainers master being in front of the camera. Why? Why is that? Why have you transitioned to that? Why is that important?
The simplest is I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm great at it, and I really love helping trainers. I love directing. That would be my first love. And then my second love is really helping trainers unlock their potential, just blossom on camera and harness the power of being a great on-camera personality. If you're a Group X trainer and you have a line, you would think you're going to be great in front of the camera. And they are not a translatable skill automatically. It's very, very different. It's like saying somebody who's a great movie actor would be great on stage. While some of the skills innately are the same, understanding acting, the technical aspects are vastly different. So just quickly, Group X, you have the energy of the audience and feedback from them. And most people forget this, you have the great ability to curate a playlist of, Harry Styles and Beyonce, which you cannot do on camera. And those two elements, your audience and a great playlist, make a completely different energy that you're playing off of as a trainer versus I'm talking to a piece of glass and I really should be talking to one person to reach a lot more than what I could fit into a room. But I have to bring in a different type of energy because I also don't have a playlist playing. So there's a whole bunch of techniques and skills that you have to learn so that you don't just go, oh my God, I suck on camera, because that's what it feels like going from all this energy in a room with people, or even just being a one-on-one trainer on the floor. You still have the energy of music and people walking around, and then being able to talk and get feedback from one person, and you can't do that online. So I love helping trainers discover and unlock all the secrets to taking their talents in a gym and translating them to camera.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And, I was just thinking as you were talking, even for me, I love to educate. I love to train and teach people stuff. But guess what? And I can be good on camera, but I also, maybe I don't weave the story in, or I don't do some of those little things. And it's just that my brain doesn't think that way. And then I will get feedback from people like yourself and others, and they'll be saying, dude, why didn't you do this? And it's it's exhausting. I don't want to do all that stuff. You do it for me, right? Or you make those little edits and you do that stuff. But so it's really interesting to hear, there's a time. Yes, you might be saying a great message, Joel. The education might be amazing, but it doesn't matter if it's not landing for people because it's not stopping the scroll. It's not, it's not engaging them enough. So it's really powerful what you're saying. I'm curious, is there, you've listed a couple of things, and is there a top thing that you see people do that is just they're just getting it wrong every time? It's the most common mistake?
On camera, yeah. There's and for your listeners who are trainers who are on camera, forgive me because I'm about to say something that you're most likely guilty of, is almost every trainer says, hey, what's up, guys? What's up, everybody? Though that is the worst thing you can do. I don't even like it when podcast hosts do it, because you are talking to an audience of one, and most people just don't think about that. You're not talking to a group in a room. I'm at home listening to your podcast, Joel. So as soon as you say, what's up, everybody, it's so subtle, but I just go, oh, he's not, I can take it or leave it. But if you start off by saying, just eliminate either one of those pronouns and just say, I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about, and you don't talk like it's this huge group. There's an intimacy that just immediately drops, and I go, oh, I'm a little more invested. You couple that with a little bit of a personal story. Before we get into today's topic, I just got to tell you, boy, I got 2 kids at home, and you tell a little story that somehow weaves it together, and I go, oh man, Joel's my buddy. He's sharing something personal. It's not just talking at me like a professor. It's a trust that's built. And so that's the biggest thing. So if I just to replay that, saying what's up guys or what's up everybody is one of the quickest ways to put yourself into a category of this is what everybody says. You should come up with your own opening. Ideally, it has to do with who you are, what your brand is, or more importantly, like where you're from. I'll often say to a trainer, and they're like, well, what am I supposed to say? I said, well, I just want you to say something different than what everybody else says. And I will often ask, how did you used to, and I'll ask you, Joel, how did you used to, growing up in Northern California, how did you greet your friends? Were you a skateboarder or a surfer or anything like that when you were young?
It's funny. No, I wasn't either of those. I'm trying to think
What was your thing as a kid? What was your thing? What did you do?
I played baseball. I played a lot of baseball. Of course, I played video games and stuff like Nintendo and all that stuff.
So what's something you would say to one of your teammates? Like how would you greet them?
Probably, hey man, hey dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even that is very different from just what's up everybody. So, hey man, this is Joel, we're here. Like that alone is different because not people don't say, hey man. I don't like questions either because if you're talking, you're presenting, hey, how are you doing? Hey, what's up everybody? That's again, there's a double wrong in there for me. Everybody and what's up. You're not asking me what's up. That's like a throw. So come up with something better. When I was a kid growing up in New York City, we'd say "yo" a lot.
Yes.
Yo,
my
how's it
cousin's
going?
from the East Coast, and he talks
Or,
to
yo,
me, hey
sup?
yo, hey yo, hey yo.
So now I'm gonna break the rule a little bit, which is okay. So, yo, sup was a greeting that we would have. So that's truncated from. Yo, like, how are you doing? What's going on? That would be the long version of yo, sup.
Yes.
But I'm okay with that because it's so unique. Because I don't have any trainer who starts the show going, yo, sup, my name's Mason. I'm from New York. And here we're going to have a great workout. You and I are going to sweat a storm. But first I'm going to tell you about my skateboard accident I had earlier today. Or I'm going to tell you about that during the workout. So right away, there's something a little different about that opening, which makes you a bit of a character. It makes you more identifiable. It just breaks you away from the pack. So anybody listening, just think about how you used to greet your friends as a kid and be okay with being different. Be okay with it being a little uncomfortable and unusual. And maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it doesn't feel natural. Try something else. But it's better than doing what everybody else does. Nobody ever wins doing that, ever, because you are destined to be just like everybody else. We all do it because it feels more comfortable, because it's not risky, because I don't want anybody pointing fingers or laughing. Well, the best thing you can do is have somebody laugh and repeat or point a finger. That's how you succeed as a personality, particularly online. You want to be different. You want to do things that are memorable. I like to point out Richard Simmons. Do you know who he is, Joel?
Yes, believe it or not. I just turned 40, so I do know. I don't think I ever jammed out to Richard, but I know who he is.
So what you just said is what 99% of people will say. And you're way too young to really almost even know him. You're 40, I'm 55. Richard Simmons is, I think he's in his late 60s, maybe older. Like
Gotta be older.
he was in the Jane Fonda era.
Yeah.
And what is it you remember about him? Tell me.
His no doubt about it, his outfit, and then
Okay.
his
What was his outfit?
I mean,
Describe it for us.
I think he would, if I remember correctly, he had these really high shorts, and they were like,
Yes.
he usually, I want to say it was like red, white, and blue. Like it was striped
Yeah,
shorts with like
Very
stars
patriotic.
and a tank top, and he was
Uh-huh.
always glistening and sweaty, and he had the ridiculous curly hair, and he had a
Yes.
high-pitched voice, and he
Yeah.
was, and he's like,
And what was his-
guy,
And what was his personality? Was he kind of like laid back?
He was high energy, but very. I almost felt like maybe annoyingly high energy. Like I'm high energy, but he was almost like. If I had to look at it now, I might even think like it was fake, like it was kind of. But I think he genuinely cared. So that was actually who he was, because he was always doing it. So I don't think he was faking
That's
it.
that is. I mean, you're nailing it all. And so, if you're listening to this, the lesson here, and I've never worked with him. And I've never done one of his workouts. And that's what Joel's saying. But yet we know him because he was such a strong, standout personality. He was very much himself, incredibly flamboyant, incredibly emotional. And I remember him on talk shows all the time where kind of like, like any guest that's very hyper, the interviewer would often kind of feel a little uncomfortable or try to calm him down, and he did not stop. He was 100% himself and incredibly successful and famous by being himself. Wearing the high shorts, I don't think that was an act. That's what he was comfortable wearing. Never changed his outfit. Like he was just, if anything, they got higher. Big socks. You know, the 80s was long gone. He was still dressing that way. And nobody replicated who he was, what his energy was. And that's the point. Tony Horton, the P90X star, also very specific. Working with him was a challenge and fun because he also had this like just desire to want to perform and entertain people. So that was great for me because I could harness that. He was like a loose cannon otherwise, but I harness it and work with him and give him things so that he could be focused. And you know, he became very famous because of P90X, his energy, his personality, and he was very goofy. So as a lot of trainers are like, and he's very proud of his physique. So these two worked well together because they were contradictions, which mostly you don't see. Usually you see a big, fit, tough guy, and you think, oh, he's X, Y, and Z. Same thing, like if you see a model, you think, oh, that person's like this. As soon as you break that mold, so Tony, who is like, you know, ripped, but such a goofball, it broke the mold. It also made you feel not intimidated by him, so you were more trusting because he was making fun of a lot of things, including himself, and it makes for entertainment, and that's the point of Richard Simmons. Great entertainer first. He happened to do fitness. That's how I look at it, and he got a lot of people in shape because of it.
That is amazing. I am guilty of saying, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Yeah, everybody does.
I am totally.
You're going to come up with something new.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said that. You know, my wife has been harping me on that, and it's funny.
Really?
I was just around another, and she's gonna. I hope she doesn't listen to this episode because she's gonna say, you see, you could have hired me 5 years ago. I could have told you all of this for free, but yet you have to go learn from." She's like, "Go ahead, go pay all your other people, the influence, go pay the Masons, Bendewald, to find out." But I told you that 5 years ago for the record. I'm like, "I know you did."
Yeah, we never listen to our spouses. We
no,
should.
We don't. It's funny that you said that, and it's really powerful because I was just at a kind of a mastermind event, and there was a pretty well-known comedian, influencer, actress, musician, all those things, and she said kind of what you just said. She said, "How do you guys what are your like core values, and how do you talk to people on this social media world, right?" And she says, "I have a phrase that I say when I'm talking to it's uniquely mine." And she's like, what is it? Everybody knew what it was. And she said, the same thing you said. Stop saying "What's up, guys." Everybody says that. It's annoying. It's like
annoying.
It's old from like the YouTube days when people were first making YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And people are just probably, and I love what you said because it's subconscious. We're subconsciously just tuning it out. And and the audience probably doesn't even know if they were to go back and say, "Hey, how come you didn't tune into Joel's podcast?" Or what was the first 3 seconds, like in Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink, talking about like those first 3 to 5 seconds, like what was happening. They may not even be able to describe it, but subconsciously, it's what you're saying. It's those words like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" It's like, I'm already out. I'm checked out. So really, really powerful. I love that you said that.
So what are you going to say?
I don't know. You know what?
I can't wait. I'm going to be tuning.
I know, man.
You can audition.
I might go with, "Hey, dude."
Hey, dude.
Hey, dude. I like what you said though. Really, is just saying hello. Just saying like hey, like it doesn't have to be anything. It could just be, "Hey, like this is what we're going to talk about today, and this is what I'm excited about, and this is why I think the story."
I like telling anybody on camera to think about one person, talk to one person, because then I feel like I'm the one you're talking to. It's such a simple concept, but then your presentation changes. I love your energy. You got great energy, like you said, and you want to keep that. But it's just you and I talking right now, and your energy's up. So imagine if you're talking to camera, same thing. You're talking to one person, but it just deepens the conversation when you think about one person. And it feels more intimate right away because you're speaking differently. It's not a vacuum. Yeah. And so you can start off with, "Today I want to get something off my chest. It has to do with how I'm feeling about turning 40. It's a big one. Today's guest is Mason Bendewald. He was, and that could be a thread or a through line that, when you really get good at it, you're taking a personal story with a guest or with the workout, and they connect. And that's I was just watching, I don't know what it was. It was like some documentary or something about Seinfeld, and how one of the things was so brilliant about the show is that they would take 3 or 4 different storylines and they would all weave together towards the end. And every single episode does it.
So well done.
And you kind of just take it for granted because you're like, "Oh, it's entertaining, it's fun, and I'm not breaking down scripts. I'm just here to be." But I was like, yeah, that's true. It's amazing how the most obscure things could tie in together. And it's not that hard to do on basic levels. So the idea of turning 40, feeling mortal, thinking about your body as a vessel and how important it is to keep it in shape, but it changes every decade. I mean, it can be talking about where you're at in life resonates with people all the time. Having children, it's like it's okay if some people don't have children, but a lot of people do. I'm an empty nester now. If I talk about being an empty nester, there's a lot of people who go, yep, I know what it's like to go through that. Like there's so many universal truths that when you're talking and sharing, you pull people in because humans connect on stories. It's some crazy number, like 65 or 70% of how we communicate is through stories. So sure, you get some information that's just data or clinical, but most of it is a story. We're telling stories. We're sharing right now. I'm not just saying, make sure you look at the camera, make sure you do this. We're sharing ideas and thoughts and emotion, and that's what people connect on.
It's funny, and I remember hearing this a long time ago, what you're talking about, stories, that we connected on a deep, deep level because why? When you look at just the way we were, maybe our evolution, stories is how we pass things down. And so tribes and people, they would tell stories, and there was no documentation at the time. So how did that information, get passed along? Well, it's through stories. And I think that's why at a deep rooted level, like you said, we are story, human beings. So
Before
very,
we could even communicate with language, we were doing cave paintings to tell the story of the hunt, to tell the story of the tribe, as you're saying. And it's how we connect. And so just getting back to our audience, fitness, if you really want to connect with your audience, you need to tell stories. You can't just say, engage your core, 10 more, feel the burn. Stop. Stop the madness.
Okay, but quick question on that, because I think you're right. But how do we tell a story when right now, if you look at the algorithms and stuff, you've got 3 seconds to stop the scroll. You've got, and then they're pushing videos that are like 15 seconds long. Like, I can't tell a story in 15 seconds, or can I?
Well, you're first of all, that's what TikTok is. I mean, TikTok and Reels, I mean, they're stories. They're, they might be stories through picture and music, but they're still stories. But I mean, the audience that I talk to, trainers, are not influencers. I'm talking about true trainers that are trying to help people change their lives. And I think the best way, so they do have the time, because they're not doing 15-second workouts. Those aren't workouts. Those are clickbait, as the one you were talking about. If you're doing, but you can do as short as a 10-minute or a 15-minute workout, and there is time. There is plenty of time there. And the way you help change lives is through storytelling. It's what moves the needle. It's the emotional factor to it. And by the way, anybody who's resistant going like, oh, I've gotten plenty of people in shape, or that's uncomfortable to me, or whatever. Great. You just have so much more competition. If there's only one Joel, there's only one Mason. If I was a trainer and I told you I was sharing my stories along the way, there is some really interesting stuff in there. And there's an endless amount of unique stuff to my story, to my life, that I can share and impart and entertain with. Same with you. Same with everybody. But as soon as you start doing what everybody else does, now let's just call it vanilla. You're like in this generic pool of free content. Why would I pay for it when I just go over here? You can start getting people to really be fans and followers and believe in your system and your way and all that, if you are imparting things that nobody else has, which is how you live your life, your story, your lessons. That's where we connect.
Yeah, so powerful. I know I'm looking at the top of the hour and we're almost running out of time.
That went by fast.
I went back fast through the stories. The power of story, man. I feel like we didn't even get to that much. Is there anybody that's doing it? And you mentioned some of the people you've worked with, but anybody that's doing it really well? We talked about what's wrong and what you shouldn't be doing. Who's doing it well?
I will say, okay, and this is true, although they've gone through a lot of challenges, is iFit. I did a bunch of work for Nordic Track and iFit a few years back. They've gone through some big shifts right now, and I don't take any credit for this, but I do take my hat off to them. They went on destination. Their destination content is phenomenal. And what they did was they hired. So I hiked on my Nordic Track, which articulates it goes up and down based on the terrain that's being covered. And I'm just going to give this example. They did a series hiking to base camp of Mount Everest.
Wow!
Right away, just first of all, that's like incredible. And they brought along,
I'm like, let's put it in my house right now. Let's go.
They hired not a trainer, but 3 of the world's best Everest hikers, and they're different ages. One of the guys, I can remember his name, is Kenton Cool. He's like summited. He's got all these records. Kenton Cool, and I think, and they were actually all the 3 trainers were fantastic, and they would trade off. And this was like the series lasted, I don't know, it was like 30 days or something crazy, because I'd only hike for like an hour a day, whereas somebody else would be hiking 10, so it lasted quite a while. the combination. So what a normal trainer would do, if you didn't give them any direction, is they'd talk about hiking and your body mechanics, and they'd kind of bore you to tears with just physical stuff. Well, these weren't trainers. These were professional hikers, and they did this incredible combination of talking about the history of climbing, the history of Mount Everest, their own personal stories, and the landscape. And it was like a master class in, I feel like I've hiked Mount Everest, in that if I never make it there on my own, I'm like, yeah, I really got a taste and a feel, probably more than your average hiker would, because they're so worried about the physicalness of it and their equipment and their oxygen and everything else. I was just there like the exercise was a byproduct. I went in every day and I was entertained and I was sweating at the end. And then I went and had my smoothie in my shorts in Southern California and didn't have to worry about any of the trappings of the danger of Mount Everest. And I got all of this incredible entertainment and education doing it. So that is somebody who's done it really, really well. And not that everybody's doing a destination type, but that's my point. They did something completely different and knocked it out of the park.
That's awesome. That's a great example. I love that. Very cool. I want to jump into some lightning round questions, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll finish where people can find you and connect.
Fire
with you
away.
More about what the work you're doing. I'm curious, man. Actually, before I do that, was there anything I didn't? I mean, there's so much, but was there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Oh gosh, ask me? No, I'm an open book. I love this stuff. You'll have me back if we want to go deeper.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Absolutely. This was cool. Okay, I'm curious. What are some choices that you think, or maybe a choice that you made that you think made you who you are today?
It's always daring. It's always daring. It's like not being afraid. Okay, here's how I'd sum it up. Not being afraid to fail. You've heard that phrase. It's like, imagine if you weren't afraid of failing, what would you do? I have to constantly remind myself of that. I have failed so many times. And I'm one of those guys, I'm lucky that I just pick myself up and move forward. Sometimes it hurts and sometimes that scar lasts, but I just keep on re-educating, raising the bar, excited to do something differently. That's it. So it's being okay with failing and learning from your failures. It is a part of life, and it's how you grow, and it's really what makes you. It's easy to look at somebody after they've been doing something for 20 or 30 years and go, what a success. How lucky was that person? P90X was not a success at the beginning. I mean, I just did the job and kind of moved on. And then I had to stop and realize, wow, this thing's doing great. How do I capitalize on it? Learn from it and exploit that. But there's a million failures leading up to that and after. And so that's a big lesson.
Yeah.
Being okay
so
with
good.
failing.
Yeah. So good. I can, just even for myself, I left the 9-to-5 job just about a year ago and went all into my coaching business and podcasts. And I had been doing it on the side for 3 years.
Terrifying.
But going all in, man, is a different beast. And like you said, I failed many times and continue to fail, but those are where my moments of growth come from.
How scary was it to give up the 9-to-5?
Very scary. I mean,
you got 2 kids. It's terrifying.
Terrifying. I'm giving up medical benefits and a pension and all this good stuff. And anybody would tell you, you're crazy to do that. Why would you do that? So...
But the real question is, well, I love pointing this out because as Americans, we're so conditioned that you have to make this fortune. Are you making more money than you made at your 9-to-5? Yes or no?
I'm making about the same, maybe a little bit less, but that was also because we had a lot of overtime and stuff that we could
And
take
now,
and
and it's
do.
only a
So
year, so that's amazing. But now the big
yeah,
thing is, are you happier?
yeah, that's an easy one. I can tell you without. I mean, and it's just what's interesting also is my I have all these projects that I want to do. That creativity of like being able to do more that I would have never probably even been able to jump into or do had I been stuck there because I didn't have the capacity to even think that way. And so now my creative juices, I just told you, I have a book coming out in the
That's
top of
amazing.
next year. And I have actually, I just connected. This is crazy too. I haven't told a lot of people this. I had this idea about a children's book for a while now. And I reached out to a pretty well-known illustrator, and he was telling, and I'm like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? I mean, what do I know? Like, of course, my idea, you always think your ideas are the greatest or decent, but I'm not in that industry. And he's like, Joel, this is a great idea. Like, I'd love to. And he's the kind of guy, like, he's the exact illustrator that I would want for this type of book. And he was like, this is amazing. Like, let's do it. This is gonna be really, really special. That moment would never happen if I stayed in the 9 to 5.
So you're pursuing more fun ventures. You're not even making it as much as you were 9 to 5, and yet you're happier and more fulfilled and have more time. That's amazing. And so many people are afraid to take that leap, but look at where it's brought you. And so that's, again,
Yeah.
not being afraid to fail and going for it. Congratulations. That's to answer that question. If we haven't illustrated it clearly enough, there you go.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. I'm curious for you. Obviously, you are doing so many amazing things, I think, anyways, in the health and wellness
Thank
world.
you.
Who inspires you?
That's a great question. I'm always looking personally. I'm always looking for mentors and other people that I can learn from. I'm actually going back for a master's degree in film. I actually haven't shared this with anybody yet. But just committed to it. Something I've always wanted to do, and so that appetite for education, higher learning, bettering myself. I'm really looking for a group of mentors to be able to do that, and colleagues to just expand my network. Today, if I had to, you're talking about anybody or specifically like in the world of fitness?
It doesn't have to be fitness. I mean, I always ask, typically, we're talking about in the genre of health and wellness, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, you have such an eclectic career in film and other things. I mean, it could be anybody at this point. Yeah.
I mean, I find inspiration and people I admire in anybody who's thinking outside the box, and anybody who's really willing to help others without looking for credit or compensation. That's a big lesson for me. And so I find those in all walks of life. I have some real estate mentors that I work with and learn from all the time. I'm very humble about that. I have a creative production designer friend who just threw just an unbelievably inspired Halloween party at my house of all things. I let him do it. And it kind of mind-blowing when you have different people like this in your life that are just inspirational, raising the bar, and doing things that other people can't do. And that's who I like surrounding myself with. I don't like surrounding myself with minions or people that are like carrying. I like people who are well beyond my level of understanding of something great, because that inspires me to continue to be great at what I do.
Yeah. Love that. I'm a big reader, if you can't tell. Are there any books or anything that just stood out for you, or was there like a top 1 to 3 books that just had a huge impact on your life that you'd recommend other people read?
Shameless plug. My wife's a writer, and an amazing writer, and she has a trilogy out, and the first book is called Stealing Venice, and it's amazing. It's like a crime thriller set in Venice, Italy, and it's.
I love that.
I'm so proud of her. It's without a doubt. This might be the first time I've said it on any kind of channel that her series will be made into an Amazon or a Hulu or an HBO at some point, without a doubt. So that's another level that I don't have. I look at her, I'll read her manuscripts, and I'm just like, how the hell did you do that? Like she's so much smarter than I am, and I love that I married up.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm gonna support. I'm gonna go get the book.
Thank you.
I love like those kind of books. And Italy is one of my favorite. I mean, I just think about like the Da Vinci Code and using those areas. And
Yes.
I have a huge affinity to Italy, and I studied there for 3 months in college.
Oh, wow.
And, so
you'll love it.
This is gonna be enjoyable.
I've
been
like
so ensconced with nonfiction because I'm just constantly learning about growth, personal development, and nutrition that I really took a back seat to fiction. So this is gonna be fun.
Oh, this is escapism at its best. I like to plug our books as I call it the 50 Shades of Da Vinci Code.
Awesome. I can't wait. Okay, this is going to be great. Last two questions. We'll wrap it up. Any rituals or hacks or practices that you kind of do on a regular basis? Some people talk about gratitude journaling. What do you do?
It's great question. And one of the biggest ones, I probably started doing it 4 or 5 years ago. I was at the peak of my career and making tons of money, and everything I ever dreamed of was happening. I was unhappy. It was like that's all I can explain. And I'd sit there and go, why am I unhappy? I don't understand this. And we can only do so much as humans. You know, you might think, I can always do more. No, you can't. We need a lot of sleep. We do. Science, if you believe in that, science says your brain needs sleep, your cells need sleep, all of it, so that you can perform at your highest level. So prioritizing sleep was a huge one for me, but probably the biggest hack, and you can see almost every Fortune 500 CEO does it, lots of huge people, meditating. And it can be short meditating, it can be like really intense meditating, but that is part of when I'm at my best, it's on a daily. When I'm at my worst, I still do it every once in a while. It's how I get to sleep at night. And it was a huge game changer for my happiness and just making my life more fulfilled, and more opportunities came because of it.
That's a big one. And then I'm just curious, is there a specific type of meditation? There's like Headspace and there's Vedic meditation. Is there one that you gravitate to?
I went deep. I studied transcendental meditation, and that was, I was so busy. I was like, I couldn't even, you had to go in for like several half-day sessions, and it was like, I don't even know if I can do this, commit to that. I was so busy. And as soon as I did, again, a game changer, and you had to meditate, you were committing to meditating twice a day for 20 minutes. So 40 minutes out of my day, of which I was getting limited sleep already. I could not calm my brain down. And it was the best thing I ever did. And now I rarely meditate for 40 minutes a day. I'll maybe do 2 10-minute sessions. And I'll often use a Headspace. There's also a new app that I love using. There's one called Insight Timer, and there's guided meditations. But for the most part, once you learn how to do it, it's as simple as sitting down, turning on a timer, closing your eyes, and focusing in on your breathing. It does, but Headspace or Insight Timer, they're great coaches to get you into meditating. But once you know how to do it, you can do it anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, love that.
Big
Great
hack.
advice. Yeah. Last but not least, Mason, where can people find you and connect with you and learn more about all the great work you're doing?
Well, if you're hanging out in Los Angeles, we'll go have coffee. Otherwise, go to megamace.com. That's megamace.com. You can reach out there, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome.
Mason Bendewald.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Joel. It was a pleasure.